Alright, welcome back to it. Another night in the shop, doing some fun stuff, working with a little black walnut. It is 50 degrees out right now. 50 friggin' degrees. I can't believe it. I didn't think this day would ever come. It's March and it's 50 degrees. Damn, I'm sick of freezing my ass off all winter. But that is what happens when you live in a cold climate. And I tell you what, I could almost sprint in this warm weather. Feels good. So anyway, we're here tonight because we're working on our planer stand, but more importantly, I have this piece of black walnut right here. It's a nice colored piece of black walnut, but this board is a friggin' turd. This is my last board big enough to do what I want to do with this thing, and it is, not only is it shaped like a banana, I don't know if you guys can see that, but we're shaped like a banana, and it also curves over this way, so it kind of bloop. So it's got a nice bow, it's crowned to shit, and it's bowed to shit. So what I want to do, I'm kind of hoping here that one end will give me enough to where I can work with it. Now just because you have a crowned and bowed board doesn't mean that all is lost. You just have to cut it down and keep the straight pieces out of it. I mean, it's not that bad, but if I were to do anything wrong with this piece, forget it. You know what I mean? The planer's not going to straighten out what this thing has going around with, especially not my little lunchbox planer. Big problem with those lunchbox planers, you got a tiny outfeed and infeed table, so that thing is going to follow the contours of the board. That's a big problem with them. Now, like I said before, I mentioned I got this stuff from an uncle who has it sticker stacked outside in the sun and the rain, which is almost sacrilege, but that's okay. He's got a much nicer pile that he keeps under his desk and a beautiful slab in his garage, but he has offered to let us go back and pick some more black walnut up from him out of that outside pile. I use a lot of short pieces, so I really don't mind it. It kind of helps out. Got a light rain falling on a tin roof. I don't mind that sound. It's when it becomes a downpour it really sucks. So anyway, what we're going to do, so I need at least 24 inches. And I think we can get this thing. We're going to be cutting it tight here. I think if I get it right here, I can work with these pieces. Now obviously I'm going to lose a little bit, but the big hook this thing takes for a bow is actually right about here. But that leaves me no extra on the other end to cut around. I mean, I have just enough to square it off. So this is going to be one of those deals where whatever planer, snipe, anything like that we develop, I'm going to have to live with it, going to have to deal with it because it's just what it is. Fortunately, this is a shop tool bench. This is our practice piece for making nice things again. So I'm a little more willing to deal with some improprieties that I didn't have, that I wouldn't be able to go into my house. I noticed as part of the problem I had getting my inlet braces to fit right, a little bit of twist in the boards, and even running it through the planer isn't taking them out. So anyway, stay tuned. I hope you enjoy it, and I'll catch you on the other side. Even after the planer work, we still have a little bit of twist in these. It's a lot better than what they were. I alternate the sides on them. If I flip it over, definitely not, they're not perfect. I mean, they work for what we're doing. Like I said, if this was a house project, These two boards here would never make it in the door. Just because that stuff, you know, I mean, this is my workshop. This is where I can practice. But that's off just a little bit. It's not going to kill us, but I love black walnut. It's such a beautiful wood. It has a lot of character in the grain. It's very nice. This piece is beautiful. You had a knot that came down right in the middle of it. And that has some really nice figure in there, which is really pleasant. We enjoy that. And a little bit on this side, but I think this side right here will leave facing out. This piece is probably the worst of the two. This one has a nice twist in it. So hopefully when we cut our joint and everything's sitting where it wants to sit, hopefully we can get that twist out of there. Now we're going to trim these down. We're going to get them down to 6 inches, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to through up one side with the joiner, and then the other side we're going to hit with the table saw. And see what happens. Alright, so before we get too far into what we're doing tonight, what we're working on is we're doing a half dovetail with a wedge joint to join the two sides of the table together. And it's a very strong joint, but the reason I'm using this is because I can very easily take it apart. So it's pretty obvious the half dovetail is this guy right here. It's going to slide in here. Now I'm going to make this the same width, and then as that slides in, it'll start sliding down that slope. Everything should kind of go together all right. And then what we do by the time we get it down to the bottom, we drive a wedge in the top here, and that tightens everything up. The nice thing is if we want to take it apart, all we do is we knock that wedge around. It comes right apart. It's a nice joint to use. We actually use that on the shaving horse build, and there's a playlist for the shaving horse build. But that is how we have attached the table of the shaving horse, or the ramp, onto the base of the shaving horse, was that joint right there. And it works very well. It holds very tightly. Now you got to remember too, we're also going to have the planer on top of this thing bolted down. That's also going to hold it together. But this is going to help keep everything from racking on us. So we're going to at least get the tenons cut tonight. We're doing a very shallow shoulder, only 1/8 of an inch, because I want more bearing surface on the inside. That'll give us a 3/4 inch tenon. And so that's what we're going for there. I'm starting to get used to this marking knife. It's taking me a little bit of time. I can see why so many people swear by them. So there's our two tenons cut. Now you guys can see the lines from the saw blades. It's not a big deal because the thickest part of this is still only 1/2 inch. So keep that in mind. I don't care for it myself. If this was an exposed tenon, say through and sticking out a little proud with a lot of relish on the outside, I probably wouldn't use the dado for that portion. I'd probably end up cutting it by hand and smoothing it down with a chisel. But for this, it's going to be blind. It's a hidden one. I'm all right with it. I can live with it. So let's get these marked out and we'll get them cut, and then you guys can see what it looks like from there. Okay, so here's what we're left with after we cut the tenons off. Now I made one glaring mistake on this, and I'm going to see if any of you notice it. So that ought to be fun. So put a comment in there if you see the mistake in this piece right here, not all the other mistakes I make on a regular basis. But this is a good one, but it's a very easily fixed one. I just wasn't thinking. Yeah, you know how it goes. So anyway, what's going to happen is this is going to go into the bottom of the mortise. And this is our half dovetail right here. There's going to have a wedge that's going to drive on top and kind of ramp and push that down. And what that makes is an extremely strong joint. Now something you have to be aware of, if you're making a dovetail joint like this, you don't want to, slidey. You don't want to make this too steep right here. If you make that too steep, all you're going to do is tear that out. It won't be structurally sound. And also the other thing to know about dovetails is I had a lot of people ask me why I wasn't doing dovetail joints in the barn. And the reason being for that, and green lumber dovetails, the housings and everything are going to shrink, and the strength in that joint is going to be taken away if it shrinks too much. Now the Japanese are masters of building with dovetails. They're phenomenal at it. They're timber framing, just about anything they do is just incredible for craftsmanship wise. Now you can also see, I don't know if the camera's picking it up, but these are the lines I was telling you about with the dado cutters. I have not seen too many dado cutters not do that. Now keep in mind it's okay because the highest points on here, it's still a pretty good tight fit on here. It's just, you're just getting lines from the tips of the blades now and again. It kind of drives me nuts, to be honest with you, to look at it, but it's so much easier and so much more accurate than doing all this by hand. And it can be done by hand. If you don't have the stacked dado blades or you're not using a router, this can definitely be done by hand. Not a big deal to do it. So anyway, that is what we are going to tie the halves of this planer stand together with. There we go. Couldn't find the words. Well, here comes the rain. I said I don't mind the sound of a gentle rain on a tin roof. It kind of very soothing. Could put you to sleep. Probably no good for woodworking and power tools. But anyway, we're moving along with this thing. We're going to get the other one cut hopefully tomorrow night. We'll get to work on the mortises, and I'm kind of hoping this weekend I'd really like to kind of get this project finished. That would be awesome. Get it done, get it used. Having that planer sitting on a table saw to use it is a pain in the ass. It's much easier on the workbench, but I don't have many workbenches up here yet, so real estate on the workbenches is a little, just a little tight. Well done coffee. Well done beyond. Excellent that way. One of those, I like, I like my coffee cooked, very cooked, but I like my beef bleeding. Don't ask me, I don't know. So anyway, like I said, I'm leaving it up to you guys in the comments to find the mistake I made on that piece. It is a very correctable mistake. It'll never be seen, but I will know it's there. So I'm kind of curious. I'm curious to see who's going to discover that first. I have my guesses which one of you guys is going to pick it up first, but we'll see what happens. Like I said, you're only allowed to guess the mistake on that piece. Not in everything else I do, just on that piece. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll catch you on the next one.